Hey guys, welcome to this 3D World tutorial. I'm Conrad Allan. We're going to be looking at two main software pieces. One is World Machine and second one is View. We'll be creating our terrain in World Machine, moving it to View for ecosystems and trees and materials, lighting, rendering it and taking it into Photoshop. That's essentially our workflow. I've got a bonus video. It's the fifth part. It's a non-optional thing because we're not actually going to be using it. It's on World Machine texturing and how to get all the control that you'll see in just a moment. So let's flick over, and here's our World Machine scene. It's quite complicated if you are not used to node-based workflows. If you're used to Nuke or anything similar to Nuke, then this will look very simple. I would say. But essentially, we've got three main parts to this. We've got our creation area, which is on the left here. We've got our combining nodes, and then on the right we've got texturing and then output even further to the right. So to get started, we're going to be creating this again inside of World Machine, but this file will be available for anyone who wants to look at it and pick it apart later. So essentially, if you're new to World Machine rather, one key area to look is up the top left here. That's your little preview of whatever node is currently in effect that you're looking at. And we'll be creating these mountains first. If you just look up in the top left again, we've got an advanced Perlin creating some noise, a Voronoi creating the bigger shapes, combining the two, bias gain just to adjust that level, because as we work towards the end, we realize we've got to move certain things around. We're eroding that, and then we're passing it on into our combiner, which then again adds the fields that we've got. We want some rolling fields for our grass and forest to grow on. So we've got an advanced Perlin again there, being eroded, inverted, bias gain, blurred, combined, and then added with another advanced Perlin just for some small noises. Excuse me. And then into another erosion and passed on down. So if you just watch this top left area here, and as I select this chooser, you'll see what's happening there. We're adding in our mountains from before. So, and that's essentially all the combiners are doing, just choosing between each of our new nodes which we've created and adding them into the terrain, and then we use them to render out or to compute our final terrain. So if I'll just go and build this, and typically if you're using texturing nodes and the more erosion nodes you use, the longer this is going to take. Obviously, if it's a higher resolution, this is only 1024, it's going to take even longer as you crank up. If you double it to 2048, 4096, it just the time I think is exponential, so or squared rather. Okay, so here is our terrain built to a 1K resolution, and we've got the main mountains over here on in World Machine terms, it's the mountains on the right. We've got a river here which you can't quite see. If I tick on show water, you'll see it, but now I've just destroyed all my computing, which is a bit annoying. We've got a beach across here, and these textures that I've made, I just really just for show. Essentially, I was going to use them for the client, but ended up just completely replacing them inside of View. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to switch over to our new project. This is what comes up as soon as you open World Machine. So what we want to do is just select everything, and we'll just get rid of it all. And So what we're going to start on first is we're going to make our main mountain, our big epic mountains. So come to generators, and these are all your input nodes, including file input if you've got an image file you want to use. We'll drop down an advanced Perlin, and while we're here, the Voronoi as well. And what we want to do is change these to similar to what we had before. So in terms of scale, you can change the style if you want. I think I was using F2 or F3. It doesn't really matter though, because we'll be eroding the hell out of these things. But have a play around with these if you're not used to World Machine. And our advanced Perlin, I think we're going to go with sort of a hills detail to add some more detail into it. Alright, let's combine these by going to the Combiner tab, add just a simple combiner, and connect them up like that. So now when we look through them, when we click between the two, you can see up the top left here, we have the changes. You can see the changes there. If we double click on this, we've got average selected. We probably don't want that. We want add. No, we do want average, but we probably want more of the Voronoi. So if I stretch it all the way to the left, we get advanced, we get our first input, all the way to the right, and it's our second input. So next what we'll do is, I'm just going to jump up, grab that, so that I can follow it more accurately. Now we'll go into our natural filters, natural nodes, sorry, and go to erosion, and we'll dump that down. This is essentially the most powerful point of World Machine. It's what does all the magic. So we want to set this to not erode too much of our details, but we want some nice defined channels and such. So I've changed it to channeled erosion, which give us better water erosion. Let's just, we'll have to fiddle around with these a bit, but let's see how this looks at the moment. You can copy, oh come on, you can copy my my settings from the file, or follow them in here and just pause. That's looking pretty good. Now this ridge through here I really like, but there's probably not enough actual detail. It's probably a bit too steep. It's not high enough, but too steep as well. So if we come back here, we can put in a filter node, and what should we look at? Bias gain. Let's turn down the gain, but up the bias. So we'll just move it up into that top range. And now we'll also, if you turn down the rock hardness, you'll get a lot smoother terrains, but also the erosion will take more effect. Also, if you increase the sediment carry, essentially that means at 1 it will all get dumped at the bottom of the slopes. At 0 it gets taken away. Filter strength, we're not using a filter up here, so we're not going to need that. And geological time enhancement, this is like a multiplier for the erosion. So if I crank that, it just flattens out the entire terrain. So we want to keep this quite low for now. See what this looks like. Right, that's actually pretty good. If I was to do that in higher resolution, I'm pressing the yellow button because that builds this terrain only up to this node and not the entire scene. So, which at the moment doesn't matter, but later on it will save you time. Okay. So I'm pretty happy with that. What I could do is I could use an offset on the Voronoi and advanced Perlin to select a different edge. For instance, if I wanted my edge to be here, or I could just go into our layout view, zoom out a little bit, and I can see our extents here. If I click on the box icon on the left, I can now move that around and choose where I want my my hills to appear. So I'm gonna choose this through here unless I can find something better. You can move it anywhere you want, really. All right, let's choose those hills right there. So they're the ones that I'm in the end I'm going to be using these. So okay, let's go back to our main terrain, and if I render this again, this is slightly higher resolution, so it'll take a little bit longer. Alright, sweet. So we've got a different terrain. It's a lot nicer as well. I love this little water flow here. That's actually really cool. Okay, so we've got our basic mountain group, and we can add a grouping tool just to there so that we can drag them around later. And we're going to start creating our fields now. So same process. Can use an advanced purlin, except this time we're just going to copy and paste that. The erosion, we're going to feed it straight into the erosion, and that's probably we probably want some like a spiky, because we're going to invert this, so we want some spiky rocks. So let's try this. Just sort of looking at the effect in the top left here to see what I'm getting. I'm going to turn down the scale because I want it to be lots of little mounds. So when I erode it, let's just turn up the erosive power, turn down the rock hardness. You can see the effect taking place already. And let's just try standard erosion. And let's try rendering that. Now these are for our rolling fields, so we're just trying to fake the effect here of sort of billowy mountains. You can do this any way you want, really. There's all sorts of. In fact, it'd probably be better to use a smooth billowy style in the basic parameters, and you can change the elevation of the center and the steepness. So if we do that now, yeah, that looks a lot better. And we're going to invert this so that we get the spikes, instead of looking like the moon, it will look inverted. So come to the filters and the inverter node, add one down, connect them up, and pretty quickly you'll see now this doesn't look too good because it still looks like the moon, but we're going to blur it and add it with some noise and then erode it again. So let's copy and paste our advanced purlin, and we will add a blur filter. This is just to get rid of those really spiky pockets, which we don't want. So a radius of 4 will do for that. We just want tiny details. And another advanced purlin. This time we're going to really crank that down and change the elevation, the steepness, and you can fiddle around with the octaves as well. So we just want this tiny little noise effect. Copy and paste to combiner. You can copy and paste any of these nodes, and I think they'll carry. They carry across whatever settings they have. So we'll connect those, and they're on average, which is perfect. Let's grab our erosion node and dump that in there, and that's going to be pretty much exactly what we want. Okay, not quite. There's too much noise through there. So what we can do is we can also carry across this blur node, and we can blur out that one, but we only want it on, say, 2. We could probably increase the scale as well. And let's see what that gives us. Now, if you want to smooth out even more than this, you can add another erosion node as well. But for our purposes, this is actually perfect, because we don't want perfectly oval hills. We want some sort of noise, because if you're down here looking across, you're going to notice there's only just slight little undulations in our terrain. So that's perfect. Let's grab our grouping tool and group it. You can double click on the grouping tool to rename it, give it a color. Let's give it a green color, and click a couple of times to increase its saturation. And so you can do that if you like, but in general, it's good to have them in groups. Okay, so we'll combine these two because we've got our mountain range that we like, and we've got our fields, but we want to combine these two. And the way we do that is by the chooser combine node. So in the combining tab, we've got the chooser, and if you just put the input A into one of them, input B into the other, it doesn't really matter which one is which, because you can control it later. And the options we have, we've got 3 options: choose between A and B based on C, or choose between A and B based on C but the other way around. So this is, if you've plugged them into the wrong one, you select one or the other. Then there's add B to A where indicated by C, but that's personally I've never used it, so we won't need to go into that. To control our distribution or our changes there, we could use the height values of these different groups, because see how this one's quite flat. If we chose a specific height and told this to add this group to that group after a certain height, it would start adding this onto there, and we'd start blending them. But that wouldn't get us the control where we want only the mountain group to appear on the right hand side. So we're going to use the layout generator, and that's in the generators again on the left side. Going to connect it up to the bottom, and initially it won't do anything because it doesn't have any data in it. But this is essentially where you can draw your own shapes and such inside of here to control the black. It'll essentially make a black and white map to input into here. Whoops. Another useful thing is you can take the terrain input, and just while you're working on it, connect it up to our mountain node, and now when we view the output of this, we can see the mountains which are coming in here. So we've got essentially like an overlay. So choose your polygon tool, and we'll just click around the edges and add a couple of points so that you can manipulate them later, and then right click to finish the circle, right click again to deselect the polygon tool. Now we can move this around, and at the moment this is just lifting our terrain because this polygon tool is set to the maximum height. You can double click on it to get its options, but at the moment we just want to know where the white to black values are, and we want to break these up so that we don't have straight lines at each point. So on the left we can click on use breakup, and this adds that fractal breakup that I was telling you about. We can adjust these parameters, so you can see the smooth line across here. At the moment the fractal breakup is on quite a large scale, so if we move this down and close that, you'll see it's a much bigger change that you can see there. If you double click on the polygon, you can change the shape breakup participation. So at 100%, at 0%, it stays straight, exactly the way it was, and at 100%, and you've got full effect essentially, and at 200%, it's really getting thrown around by the fractal. But we want to keep it relatively close to where we wanted, but we want little changes, so we're going to have to change our fractal scale. So let's increase the roughness and decrease the scale again. Right, so we're starting to get nicer details through here, and I still think, let's just move that in a little bit, because remember, these, just because this is getting clipped, the white values, that's fine. That just means that our mountain terrain will be in full effect here, and it will peter out towards the edge. So we want quite a bit of this left edge to be the mountain terrain. Just going to reduce that scale again even more. Get a little bit more of the breakup. Let's increase that. I'm going to move these around. You can also change them to different heights by right-clicking and then just dragging to a different height, and you can see the effect there. It's really thrown it down. Okay, so if we disconnect this now and we click on it, you can see clearly what where that layout generator is taking effect. So if we click display as mask, this will be much more useful for us, because now we can really see this is where our mountain's going to be, this is where it's going to fade out to our rolling hills. So it's a little bit too far at the moment. So by double clicking on it, we can decrease the fall off distance to control where it is. Let's just break up this a little bit more, and that's probably pretty good. Let's try that. Now if we click on our chooser and we have a look at it, what's actually happening is the opposite of what we want. We're getting mountains on the left instead of the right, where we want our hills. So if we open our chooser and switch to the other option, bang, we've got our hills there. So I'm just going to compute that and see what it looks like. There we go. So that's looking pretty good. Now this section here I don't like, because it's just coming to a straight into the edge, and if I had a camera here, that's just going to look horrible. But we're going to be able to fix that up later with our beach node. Okay, so we have our first combiner pair set up, and we're just going to drop down another group. I'm going to make it a bit bigger, because I'm going to have to add stuff to that later. And we can start working on our river. So we want a river on the left side here, or right side, doesn't matter. And we want, again, we're going to be using the layout generator and then breaking it up with a fractal so that we don't have such a manufactured look. So drop down the layout generator, and we'll enter the layout generator. Tick display as mask, and we'll draw a line, and let's say just drop a couple down like that. Now see these black lines coming into these corners. We don't want that, so we want a smooth river. Now if I double click on it and if I tick shape breakup, use breakup, it will break up this, but we want to restrict the river. It's going to have to be deep and sharp. So decrease the fall off distance, and that's starting to look a lot better. But we've still got these sharp corners. So in order to fix that, you click on one of these vertexes and just drag off it, and you'll get a Bezier handle. And click and drag on this one, click and drag on that one, and you can quite quickly see the effect. So the fractal is actually still working. We're just smoothing out the actual path of our original spline. And now we can start to move these and get rid of them, because it's always better to have a few more than you need. Right, we probably we don't need to control whether the river goes out or not, because we won't actually see the edge. Okay, I don't like this corner through here, so I'm just playing around to see if I can avoid that section of the fractal, or at least stretch it out a little bit. Okay, that'll do. I just need this. Just realized we want to leave space on the left here for our city to go in. So with the river coming close to it, but not actually intruding on the city, that's what we want. So that's probably just about perfect. Okay. Now, what we can do is also change our fall-off profile. So at the moment, I believe it's just a linear. It's just 100% to 0% in a straight line. But what a river would typically have is probably an S-curve. It would go, well, definitely it'd be an S-curve for our cases, so we can switch to that. Or you can click on the custom points, and you can make your own if you want. So let's just fiddle with this a little bit and see what we can get in terms of the scale. For a river, we don't want too much roughness in the fractal, but we also want a couple of nice details through there. So, okay, that is way too small. Let's turn the scale up. Okay. Let's try less. That's actually pretty good, except for this corner here. So it requires a little bit of playing around, but eventually you'll get something that you like. Okay, that's not too bad actually. Just got to move this back over to the left here, and we're pretty happy with that. Okay, but I'm just going to decrease the fall off again, and we'll go back. So there we've got our mask, and we want to erode it. The reason we want to erode this is that we want to actually get some of the details of fluvial erosion into that riverbed. So even though it's a white to black, if I come in and turn off display as mask, we actually get this hugely steep river detail. So what we can do is, we're not going to worry about the how steep it is at the moment, but we'll fiddle around with our erosion quality or amounts. If I show you that, which is taking a little bit of time. So now we've got, you can see these striations through here. We've got some deposits of sand or dirt, and it's a little bit smoother. And this will now make sense once I show you what it looks like inverted. So there it is inverted, and it's actually really quite nice, except for I'm not a fan of these sedimentary deposits which have now been inverted, but for our purposes it's actually going to work okay. What you can do is, if I put an inverter in on here and then erode, we'll end up with a slightly different result, and can typically be, this will probably look a little bit better. Okay, we have two strong channels though, so I'll just turn down the channel depth, and let's turn down the sediment carry. I've just turned down geological time enhancement, which means all my options have changed. Alright, it's still not working right. Let's go to standard. Alright. This blocking here is usually due to the geological time enhancement. So if you turn that off entirely and come in again, and there we go. We've got at least we don't have that blocking yet anymore. But we still don't have the sort of effect that I'd like. Let's go channeled erosion again. That's not too bad. Let's add a bias gain in before and see how we can, if we just decrease the gain, increase the bias, and see what we get. I think this will look, there we go. Okay, so what I've done is just brought up that base point of our river. And if we go back into our layout generator, we were getting very steep edges, which means at the bottom of our curve, it's not quite smooth enough. So if we come in and edit our and make a custom curve, we can come on like this and really make that really smooth. If we accept that, we can also increase the fall off distance a little bit. And if we go back now, there we go. You can see this nicer transition between the two now. Okay, still not perfect, but it's going to be covered and integrated with our main terrain, so it's not really going to be too noticeable. It'll be filled with water as well and smothered in trees. So we're done with that section. We'll add a group to that, and to create our coastal overlay, it's not really necessary to use a generator for this part. You could just use a gradient map, but I prefer to just add a little bit more to the. We don't want a erosion node. Adding the advanced Perlin just adds a little bit more mathematical variation to it. So we've added a coastal erosion node, and I'm going to adjust the water level to create this sort of beach through there. We want to smooth the underwater features quite a bit and make the transition power, probably keep it at cliffs and make it quite steep, because this sort of beach wouldn't be the sort of sand beaches that you'd see in Hawaii or something. That'd be more like the southern points of Australia, for instance, where the apostles are, really high erosion there. Okay, so that's actually pretty good. We'll probably have to adjust the height of our coastal overlay, but that's done for that one. It's a really simple effect. You could go spend more time on that if you wanted. Just in anticipation, I'm going to drop down a bias gain there, and also bias gain here, because I have a feeling that when we add these, we're going to need to adjust them in some way. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with this, with the coastal overlay first. We're going to combine it with our original terrain. So we'll duplicate the chooser, put input A as our main terrain, input B as our coastal terrain, and copy the layout generator, connect the layout generator, and what we can do is we can just use the same one and we can just move it around to this bottom section here. There's a rotate tool, but there it is, rotate shape. So we could have just rotated it, but too late now. Just drag this in. I want that fall off distance to be a little bit less, or not. Apparently, let's turn down the shape breakup. There we go. So in this case, we don't actually need all of it to be, any part of the actual terrain to be white. We just need just on the edge to be mostly white. Alright, let's go and check out what that has given us. Okay, again, this is the wrong way around, so we'll just select the other one. And if I switch between these now, I'll just build that. So here on the right, you can see the coastal node coming in, and if I switch between the two, you'll be able to see the effect. So at the moment, the only coast we're getting is actually down here. So we need to edit our coastal erosion, which is this here, and this is the section that we need. So what we might do is just change our Perlin fractal to a smaller one. Let's make it less steep. That's pretty good. And coastal erosion. Let's go to about there. Beach size. Okay, if we go back to our final chooser, and we're starting to get our coast in here, but see how it is adding our coast, and we've got this nice little cliff through here, but it's a little bit too high. So this is where we open up our bias gain, and we can increase the gain a little bit, make it a bit more pronounced, and keep lowering it a little bit. And if we come back now, we've got this nice little drop off here. So it's probably going to work for us perfectly. Yeah, that's really good. Now remember, these we're going to be looking at our scene from this angle here. So we're just going to see the water is going to come up to these points here, and our river down the right hand side. So so this difference here in the coastal line is actually going to work for us really well. Okay, now onto the river. We'll copy and paste that again. Join up input A to the output there, B over to our river, and I think actually no, all we need here is a combiner, if I'm correct. Yep. Instead of a chooser, because we don't have, all we have is literally this area of the terrain. If we offset that with our bias gain, we can just use a combiner. So I'll copy and paste our combiner, put in one input there into A, the river into input B, and we're offsetting the entire terrain because currently our river is set to quite a high altitude. So one thing I'll show you now to help with, instead of having to go into bias gain, then go decrease gain, increase the bias. Actually, we'll need an offset there, but and then flicking back to the combiner and then going back and forth. Just press F on the node that you want to preview the whole time. And now, as I adjust our properties here, we can see them straight away. So, what we might actually need is an offset, if I can find it. Because at the moment our bias gain is actually just affecting that bottom section. So let's just figure out why. Normally, what the bias gain should be doing is setting. Oh, actually, I think what we need to do is change this to display as mask. Nope. That is still working strangely. Okay, so I'll just go and see if I can figure out why this is occurring, and I'll come back. Okay, we're back. Didn't take too long to figure out. What was happening is our combiner. My combiner was set to average, so what it was doing is averaging the previous output with this one. So I'll just switch this back to normal, and if I come to our combiner and click on subtract, you can see it's now cutting into that terrain. So let's go maximum, and we'll see the view the output in that. So we're actually almost done with this section. I think this is the last thing to do, but there's a couple of things that that you could work on through here. We probably won't spend any time on them. If I just crank that, see that's the water level here. But typically I would want the water level for the terrain to be up around there, which actually isn't too bad, except for this section here, which is starting to fall away too quickly. So if we wanted to change that, we can go into our coastal erosion group here, and in our in our layout generator for the combining of the coastal erosion, come into there, and this is the section that's causing us grief. So what I'll do is I'll actually force lock this, and we'll come in here so we can see it, and there it is. And as I move this, I can see, bang, I've done it. So I've just moved this vertex across to pull that point back instead of there, so that it's forward, and I reckon that will do the trick. If we view our output again, there we go, we've got our little island through here. So in general that won't matter too much. You won't really notice, because we won't be looking at this section of our river. We'll be trying to lock our camera to probably about here. That'll be our view. Okay, so just flicking back to our original scene, the only two things left to do. So we've gone through creating our mountains, we've done our fields, rivers and coasts. These are the combiners that we've used, and this is getting passed into an overlay. To get your files out of World Machine, you come to the output node. So we'll just go back to our new one, come to output, and the second one, the red floppy disk, is our height output. And in terms of most 3D software, this is what you're going to want. If you can't figure out how to make a terrain out of a height map in, say, 3D Max or something, you can add your mesh. Oops, that's the overlay. The mesh output here. which will output as either tris or quads. So in the height output, the best file format for us is the 16-bit. This will increase the detail a hell of a lot. And POV-RAY TGA tends to be the best one that I've found for view. TIFF would be fine as well. I haven't really bothered with any of the others because I haven't needed to go anywhere past POV-RAY TGA. So if you click set on to set your destination, just go desktop output, and you can click on write output to disk, and it prompts that you need to build your terrain first, and once it's done that, it'll write the file. Typically these will be pretty big. At 1K it's only 4 megabytes. At 4K I think it's 64 megabytes. If I have a look in here, see if I can, how big is that? 64 megabytes. So here's the original 16-bit image or the terrain height map that I was using. So on the right here we've got our big mountain terrain. Here obviously you can see the river, and in the middle is the rolling hills. And here's the texture map that I also created, which I haven't actually used, but you can use a lot of it for flow maps and distribution of things, choosing where materials go, but that is beyond our uses for today. Okay, so that is the end of part 1, and it's a huge part, but well, actually so is the materials in that. Yeah, hopefully that gives you a good, thorough understanding of our work inside of World Machine. You can go to all sorts of extents, extracting maps from each of these erosion nodes and using them. But if you want to learn how to use them a little better, check out the texturing video, where we'll be going into these nodes in here.